Hey guys, it's Taylor March, Trailnet's Policy Director, and I'm here with Joe Windler, our Mobility Coordinator, and we are going to talk about how to carry stuff on your bike. But first off, let me give you a brief introduction if you don't already know. Trailnet is a 30-year-old 501c3 that works to make it safer and easier for people to walk, bike, and take transit in St. Louis. With that, Joe, been getting quite a few questions recently about how to carry stuff on your bike. What do you use to carry stuff on your bike?
Quite simply, I use a bag to carry stuff. You might call it a bike bag, you might call it a backpack, a fanny pack. Really, it could be anything. But in general, what I like to do is find some type of bag that I can attach to my bike rather than my person to take some weight off myself and let the bike that's got the wheels do all the carrying. So yeah, that's how I carry things around. So we're going to call it a bike bag today.
Awesome. Preference between like carrying stuff on your bike versus on yourself? It sounds like you've used both. What's the advantage to carrying stuff on your bike versus carrying stuff, on your body, like with like a backpack or things like
that? Yeah. Using your bike is my preference. You can use a backpack, you can use any other type of bag that goes on your body. But the main thing that's going to do is it's going to create a hot spot between you and that. So I think we've probably all had the experience of wearing a backpack on a hot day, whether you're walking or biking. That tends to create a point of friction on your shoulders, on your back. It can also lead to strain on your back, your legs, your hips. So if I can put it on the bike, I'm going to put it on the bike. Let the bike do most of the carrying. If anything, you'll maybe feel it in your legs a little bit as you're dragging a few extra pounds of weight behind you, but it's better than having it on your body.
Yeah. What are the things you typically carry in your bag every time?
The most general form of things that I carry in my bag are tools, things that are going to make my life easier if I get a flat tire, if I lose track of where I am, or if I need a snack or some type of refreshment. So generally, the things that you're going to take on a hike or the things that you're going to take to a long lecture in school, you're going to keep on your bike. Maybe you won't take a wrench into the lecture hall, but yeah.
Are there like any seasonal things that you like sometimes carry on your bike, in the wintertime, but you don't carry them in the summer?
Generally, from season to season, I'll have my set of standard tools that I'll carry with me. If it's going to be a really cold day or a really rainy day, I might modify my kit there. So on a really rainy day, maybe I'll take a poncho along with me or a rag so I can wipe myself or my bike off. On a cold day, an extra pair of socks is always handy, extra pair of gloves, maybe a hat to carry. A lot of times in cold weather, you tend to layer up more than you need. So even just having a place to take off those layers and put them as you're riding rather than having to generate all that unnecessary heat throughout your ride is a really good thing to have. So, yeah. It's great for carrying things from the get-go, or it's great to have extra space just to offload things as you go.
Yeah, I definitely use that a lot in the wintertime. It's, a place to store layers as you get warmed up, get them off your body. So in terms of the tools that you usually carry, what are the tools, like what are your go-to tools that are always in your bike bag?
Yeah, so I'll run you through here. I've got my bike bag in front of me, so I'm going to change the camera to look down at the table here. And we'll kind of run through it step by step. So this is my bike bag I've been using a lot lately. It's nothing special. I think I got it for $3 at B-Works. It's just a single pocket with a zipper on it and two little straps here that can attach almost anywhere to your bike frame or your handlebars. So this bag is nice because it is one big pocket, makes things really easy to get into. It makes it a little more difficult to get things out of it, but as long as it's there, that's what's important. So we can run through what's inside. And this is just the general suite of things that I'll take with me on any given day. Starting off, first and foremost, having an extra tube with me is a must. If I'm going on a ride with a couple people that might not be carrying this, I might even take 2 tubes. But flat tires, I think if you ride bikes, you know that they're going to happen. So having one on you can just be a real lifesaver. Another thing along with tubes, if you don't have a tube on hand, you can always take a patch kit with you. This is a Park Tool VP1. It's just got some glue, some sandpaper in here to rough up your tire rubber, and then a couple little patches there. So this works great as long as you've got a nice clean and dry tube. And for the most part, they seem to work, although I have had a little difficulty with them in the past. But this is great if you don't have a tube, but it's definitely always good to have a tube if you have one. Another thing to go along with changing tires is having a tire lever or two on hand. This is just a generic metal tire lever. If you have a plastic one, I'd use the plastic one. I have misplaced all of my plastic tire levers, so I'm stuck with these guys. The benefits to metal is that it's never going to go bad. The cons to this is that it's a little bit heavier than a plastic one, and you can also damage your rims if you're not too careful with it. The other thing is it tends to clank around in the bag if you don't have something in there to cushion it. So tire levers are a must, but go with a plastic one if you can find one. I also like to keep a rag in here. This is an old sock. So if you got anything lying around like this, it's good to have one on hand. One to clean your hands if your chain comes off or if you get into a bigger mess. And it's also good just to have some cushion inside the bag for things like these that tend to rattle around. Next, we've got a little first aid kit. This one is pretty light on what's inside. I've got some gauze and some dressings, and then just a slew of different size Band-Aids. So if you form a blister on your hand from riding for a long time or on the back of your heel, it's always nice just to have something to take a little bit of the chafing away. And then the gauze, if you do get into a little worse of a scrape up, having something to put on there and cushion it. Also recommend carrying some alcohol or some sanitizing wipes in case you do need to clean it up a bit more. Multi-tool, this is a great one to have. They make multi-tools in all different shapes and sizes with more or less tools on them. This one's quite basic. It's just got a set of Allen keys on it, a bottle opener because the bottle opener is always important to have, and then a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver on there for any other things that you might need to adjust on the bike as you go. They make some of these that have chain tools on them, some that have bigger and larger Allen keys, but this one, as long as you've got like a 5mm up to a 6mm, you're generally good to go with everything that you need to adjust on your bike. Another thing to keep in mind is if your multi-tool has a knife on it, it can make it a little more difficult if you're carrying your bike on the airplane or taking it on any other public transport. So next, CO2 cartridges. This is not a must-have, but it's a nice to have if you don't have a pump with you. CO2 cartridges, these fill up your tire. It is a one-shot device though, so if you mess it up, you're still left with a new tube, but it's an empty tube. So if you have a bike pump, bring the bike pump, but these can be good in a pinch or if you're really trying to lighten your load and you don't have room to carry a hand pump with you. That leads me to the pump, which does not fit in this bag, but it does clip to my frame. So any sort of hand pump or frame pump, I would recommend keeping on your kit all the time. If you do get a flat, it's nice that you don't have to find a gas station then to pump it up. So having a bike pump is a game changer. Just a couple more things in here. Portable charger for your phone. If you are planning to use GPS or if you need to call someone, it's best that you don't run out of battery in a pinch. So if you have a portable phone charger, any of them will work. This one's got a little flashlight in there too. But keeping one of these on me is always just that one extra bit of reassurance that I won't get stranded somewhere. Also, you want to make sure that you have the cable to charge the phone because I have taken that out without the cable before. And last but not least, just a little bit of cash. I always keep at least $2 in my bike bag outside and separate from my wallet to make sure that I've got bus fare or public transit fare in general so that I can get home. Metrolink, the buses all have space for bicycles. So if you do get caught out and you don't have any of this stuff with you, as long as you got $2 in cash, you're going to be able to find a way home. So that is what I've got in my bike bag. And yeah, I'll throw it back to Taylor because this is a very revealing moment, showing someone your bike bag and what's in it. And I'd like to know what I'm missing and what you could recommend me.
I'm trying to think if there's anything in my bike bag. So this is the bike bag that I carry all the time. It also goes in the front. I like being able to have access to stuff. There's also a little map on the top of it. Actually, that as I open it up, the one thing that I always carry that you didn't pull out of yours is a lock. So this is just a little cable lock that I keep with me. I always have like some kind of little something that if I have to like emergency run into a gas station or something to get something to eat or make a phone call, I've got something to keep my bike from running away. Usually I use a U-lock, but this is kind of like my just carry it with me lock. Let's see. Safety vest. If it gets to be nighttime, you're out a little bit longer than you expect. Either this or like a safety triangle. I like to have something like that so that, visible and gives you a little extra protection. With that too, a lot of times, on my bike, I have my lights, but sometimes I'll carry a spare set of lights in my bag just in case those run down. If I think I'm going to be out for a really long period of time, or like, especially in the winter time, that's one of the things that varies. Like in the summertime, I'll just carry one set of lights because I generally am not going to use them. But in the wintertime, I usually carry a second set just in case the batteries on the first ones die. Pump, just like yours. Patch kit. One of the things that I do carry is some kind of lens cleaning cloth because I'm always riding with either sunglasses or honestly in the wintertime, and also generally in like foggy conditions, I'll wear safety glasses as well, just to keep dust and dirt out of my eyes. Had a couple experiences where like, a truck or something will flick up some dirt in the air riding behind a dumpster truck or things like that. Don't want that stuff in your eyes. And it really makes it a lot nicer to be able to clean them off. And then generally I also have a mirror, but that's usually on my glasses themselves. I also carry a patch kit, multi-tool, and then I have a little pair of like pliers that has a knife on this. So as you were saying, in terms of traveling, I can always leave this. This is kind of more of an optional thing. But this can help, if you've got to make some cable adjustments on the fly. It's just the right size to be able to pull brake cables, shift cables, and tighten those up without too much effort. So two other things. I usually carry a waterproof cover for the bag itself because this one isn't waterproof. You could, ditch that if you don't have one. And then a saddle cover for my bike seat so that if I have to leave it outside somewhere when it's raining, bread bags actually work really well for this as well. Just something to cover up the seat so you're not sitting back down on a wet seat can be really nice. So that's what's in my bag.
Yeah, and I think this goes to show that everyone's bike bag is going to vary. There's a lot of carryover from mine to Taylor's in terms of really the bare essentials. But yeah, you can kind of load it up however you want. And that's sort of the fun thing about it. It can be a big one, it can be a small one. It changes for the seasons, and really whatever makes it more comfortable for you to get out on your bike and ride, go ahead and throw it in your bag. I think, the big one right now too, I wanted to mention is some stuff to carry around due to COVID-19. I know I've got a face mask and a bottle of hand sanitizer that I'm typically throwing in my bike bag now when I'm going out for a ride. If I end up having to take the public transit after getting a flat tire, I want to be ready to be able to get on there safely.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the heaviest thing you've ever carried on your bike?
The heaviest thing.
Or the biggest thing?
The biggest thing, we did Christmas tree on the bike. a
Wow.
couple years ago. So that was kind of interesting. I have a rear rack on the bicycle, so I was able to put a 2x4 on that, set the Christmas tree on top of it, and with enough bungee cords was able to secure it down. It was a small Christmas tree, a Charlie Brown Christmas tree, so it wasn't too bad. If I can find a picture of it, I'll send it over to you. But yeah, I don't know. The heaviest thing is probably just groceries. With the two panniers that I've got, I can load those pretty high, full of stuff. So heaviest stuff at the bottom, lightest stuff on top. But I don't know how many pounds, but it's gotten pretty heavy. Probably heavier than my bike likes to carry on a daily basis.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with what a pannier is, so this kind of saddlebags is what some people call them, but they clip onto the racks on your bike and help it carry stuff a little bit easier. This one happens to be waterproof as well, so you don't have to carry an extra cover, and you can just throw everything on. It's got nice little reflective packages on it too.
Yeah, and I think, I've got a little bike image here. I was gonna sort of show some standard type setups for carrying things on your bike. So the pannier that Taylor and I were just talking about is a bike specific bag that attaches to your bike frame. Typically you need some accessories to your bike. A lot of bikes have these, but you'll either need a rear rack that comes off the back there. They come in all shapes and sizes, different functions, and you can also have a front rack that does a similar thing. And those panniers will just sit right on there and clip in and give you a nice place to store things. Panniers are great because they lower the center of gravity of your load as opposed to wearing like a big full backpack up here. So you can load them pretty full and pretty heavy. And they also come in all different sizes, small, medium, large, so you can pack as much as you really need. The bike bag that I've got here, and like Taylor's, can typically sit right here in between your hands. They've got other frame bags. This one could also be a frame bag that can just hang from your top post here. Some fit in the triangle here. There are saddle bags that sit behind the seat, look more like this. But yeah, they come in all shapes and sizes, and they can attach to your bike in many different locations. And as we said, your bike bag can also be your backpack or even a fanny pack.
Awesome. In terms of like patch kits and pumps, so this is something that I've had a lot of questions on, is like glueless patches versus the glued patches. Do you have a preference in terms of which ones you use, and if so, why?
Yeah, I tend to use the vulcanizing kit. So this is the one that comes with the glue. I just feel a little bit more peace of mind when I've got control over the entire process, from cleaning and scraping to applying the glue and then applying the patch. This little pre-glued super patch kit is great because it's so tiny. You can, it's sort of a one-shot thing. You pull it out, you peel the back off, and then you slap it on the tube. And in theory, you should be good to go. But, I've never had either of these really fail on me in the moment. It's just really longevity's sake. I think I would trust the glue rather than the pre-glued one.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. Yeah, that I generally carry the glued patches because I know that once I fix it, if I do it right, it's going to last forever. I used to carry the glueless patches, the sticker ones, almost exclusively because they're really easy to use in the field. And if you're going to replace the tube anyway when you get home, those absolutely make a ton of sense because they're really quick, really easy. But my experience was after about a year, 6 months or so, the glue and the adhesives on those, it's not a permanent fix the way that a vulcanizing patch, with the glue is. So I carry the glue ones now, but can see both make a ton of sense. What about between pumps and CO2 cartridges? Do you have any thoughts on why people would want to carry one versus the other?
Yeah, the CO2 cartridge, I've luckily never had to use one. I've seen others use them to success and also to failure. The issue with these is that it's one shot. So if you don't get it threaded onto your tire properly, or you forget to open your Presta valve and you go ahead and use the CO2 cartridge. It's just going to blow a lot of CO2 everywhere, but not in your tube. And if this is the only thing you're carrying, then, and you only have one cartridge, you're still left with a flat. So having the pump is sort of a foolproof way to make sure that you've got an air supply. I have had some issues with these in the past. When you ride around with them on your bike frame for a long time and don't use them, they can gather gunk and dust and debris and can be somewhat difficult to use, if not impossible. But as long as you're keeping up with it, and just like anything on your bike, making sure it's oiled and clean and in working order before you set out on a ride, then you'll be good to go. If you don't have a lot of space, the CO2 cartridge is probably the way to go. And for anyone who's really concerned about weight, CO2 might also be an option.
Yeah. Are there any other seasonal items that you kind of throw in your bag? I know one thing that I'm thinking of that I always carry in the summertime generally is a little tube of sunscreen. Are there other things that you would throw in there for the summertime or the wintertime that you don't typically have in there right now?
Summertime, definitely some sunscreen. Wintertime, even summertime, chapstick. A lot of times you can get some dry lips when you're riding the bike, especially a long distance. I think, mainly for the winter, just an extra set of dry things if you do get cold. So dry gloves, dry socks, even hand warmers. Sometimes on a really cold day, I've got these little rice packets that I'll heat up in the microwave before I get out and go ride. And I can slip that in my glove on the top or the bottom of my hand, and that'll at least get me going so that I can build up some heat from the ride itself, and then I can store those in my bike bag when I don't need them anymore. Ski goggles if it's snowing, but we generally don't have enough snow here to really warrant that. Yeah, in general with the weather, it's just having layers and making sure that you're shielded from whatever those elements are for that day. So if it's wind, if it's rain or snow, being able to shield yourself from that, but also be able to remove it in case you do get too hot. Yeah.
Anything else we should know about carrying stuff before we in for the day?
Very important thing is just making sure that whatever you're carrying with you is secured and locked down onto your person or your bike. The last thing you want is a floppy bag getting in the way of your chain or the spokes on your wheel. That can end up with you pretty quickly on the pavement. I made the mistake of taking a shopping bag to the dumpster a couple of years back, and just the short 50-foot ride from my driveway out to the recycling bin ended up with me doing a face plant on the pavement. So, just poor planning and wasn't thinking straight. Figured I've biked enough, I can manage a bag, hanging from the end of my handlebar, and turns out I couldn't. So just making sure that that thing is nice and properly secured is important. Other things would be accessibility. So Taylor's bag strapping onto the very front of his bike is great because you can reach into it and still have your hands on the handlebar or near the handlebar and your face facing forward. If you've got a bag on the back of your bike, you might want to consider not keeping your phone there or keeping it there so you're not distracted at all while you're riding. But accessibility, and I'd say making sure that that thing is nice and secure on the bike are the two most important things.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoy having, since this opens a way you can reach down in while you're riding. And, if I'm on a really long ride, I'll throw some snacks in there, things like that. So if I'm on the Katy Trail or someplace where it's safe to eat and ride, you can do that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Keep your eyes on the road. Don't get distracted with what's in the bag. But yeah.
Well, Joe, thanks again. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.